It seems like Stellar Blade just can't stop from winning, and that is the case with a lot of the reports coming up with the summer update, where a lot of the fan base are coming back and playing this game months after its release. And this is the sort of game where you know it has staying power, it's growing a dedicated fan base, and just simply with the summer update, it brought back almost half of the players that purchased this game back to play another round of Stellar Blade. And that is just showing the high quality of this game that is just not seen in the video gaming industry as often as you would hope. And I think this is the example that we're seeing with Stellar Blade, where people are coming back playing this game 4 or 5 times, replaying the story, replaying the combat scenes. And Shift Up, the developer, is reciprocating that dedication with many updates that are adding new things like New Game Plus, new outfits. And with his summer update, it's adding even more outfits that people that were complaining about the censorship during the initial release have very little to say with the new outfits that they're putting out there. And I think that's the essential thing that we're getting from Shift Up and Stellar Blade, where it is catering to the fan base that bought its game, and the fan base is rewarding it with constantly playing the game, showing that they like this game, spreading the word about Stellar Blade, and making it a lot of money. And I think that's the biggest thing we can take away from Stellar Blade, is that if you listen to the fans will reward your game. And I think that's the end result of what we're seeing with Stellar Blade and all these updates that are coming out, where the fan base is coming back in droves, playing this game almost at a 40% rate from its initial release. You can see this with some of the player counts, where the summer update brings about 40% of PS5 players back to playing this game. This is a massive number for a single player game that's come out over months ago, and I think it's just showing the high quality of the game and the developers' understanding of what the game players want. Is bringing in the outfits people want to see, and it resoundingly heard the complaints during the Stellar Blade censorship fiasco, where people were petitioning, angry at some of the designs that were limited or censored in some ways due to some factors that are unknown to the player base. And people could say it was limitations on copyright designs, or they can say Sony was censoring them. Nonetheless, the outfits were censored and people were complaining about that. But the new outfits that we're getting are showing that it wasn't a case of them being ashamed of the designs. It's clearly that the case was something dealing with some copyright issues with some of those designs. And you can see the new designs that we have are very uncensored, very appealing, very attractive to the fan base, and it shows Shift Up knows who has to cater to. And I think that's the biggest thing that we're seeing out of this whole event, that Shift Up is making games now for the game players, and they are being rewarded. If you just look at the summer update itself, you have a new area, summer vacation area. A lot of people are playing with this area, summertime limited. You get new music for the summertime, newly added objects, interactions. You can play with some of the flotation devices, new outfits, and just fixing some of the bugs within the game. And it's showing the constant attention and care that this game is getting from Shift Up, because it is one of the most successful franchises released out in Korea. And I think that is the biggest thing that we're seeing, why Shift Up is catering to the fan base in such a way, because they are being rewarded from the fan base. If you just look up some of the royalties that Shift Up is making after the first month of release, selling over 1 million copies for a new title with very little fanfare, getting this amount of copies sold, it is a big thing. Over $15 million in royalties. And you add to that Shift Up went public on the Korean Stock Exchange, making over $320 million in its initial public offering. You have a games company that has a bright future with a new franchise. And I think this is the thing that we would like to see in American video games development, where they're making games for fans. And I think this is the reward you do get if you do make games for the player base, where people are going to be playing your game still to this day, where you have a high user rate of playing the game, people coming back, playing your game, spreading the word about your game, growing the franchise that you just developed. And I think Stellar Blade is the best and prime example of making a high quality game that cannot be refused. And I think it is the best example of a game from Korea. Of course, we have other games coming out like The First Descendant that are making waves as well, but I think Stellar Blade did it better because it had the entirety of the game, all the costumes, everything was in that single copy of the game. And it shows if you make a stellar single player game, people will play your game consistently and you will draw a large fan base. And I think that's the key thing I like about Stellar Blade. They made a complete game. I think it's showcasing the effectiveness of Korean developers of making high quality games that cater to a fan base. Of course, the games journalists are going to still deride this game. They have a sort of hate of this game because it was a game that they wanted to fail. It was a game that they wanted to see not reach these certain heights because it flew in the face of everything they believe in the video gaming industry. A game is not supposed to be attractive to the male gaze, engaging, or beautiful, and Stellar Blade is all those things, and more importantly, it's a good game. And I think that's the thing that is making this big of a impact within the gaming industry right now, because you have a quality game, which is incredibly rare nowadays. And I think that's the biggest thing that we can see with Stellar Blade, that it is standing out like a sore thumb, like many Korean games nowadays, like the First Descendant, where it's made with the intention of actually being a beautiful game. And I think that's the thing that we rarely see in the video gaming industry nowadays, where everything is made to be ugly, annoying, and not as pleasant as it's supposed to be. It's supposed to drag you back into reality, while Stellar Blade is doing the opposite. It's taking you out of reality. And I think that's the best thing that you can have with a game in the modern day environment, because every single game that is out right now is trying to drag you back into the modern day political progressive sphere and influence your mind, while this game is just showing you beautiful environments, beautiful characters, and overall an enjoyable game that is going to stick with you after you finish it. And of course, great music as well. And I think this is the thing people actually want from their games. You can see these things in the Capcom Super Elections, where they surveyed over 250,000 people about what they wanted in video games, and the first thing was always exhilarating gameplay. And that's the thing that you get from Stellar Blade. And number 2 and 3 are the most key points that you get from Stellar Blade, and that is unique and attractive characters. Over 136,000 people said that they want this in their game. So you want good gameplay, good characters, good beautiful characters to look at, and you have the perfect game for a lot of game players. Of course, people are going to go to number 3, unpredictable and exciting storyline. Stellar Blade's weakness is around there, but having the first 2 options of what gamers actually want is a strong position to actually begin with your franchise. And I think that's the thing that Stellar Blade has over other franchises right now within the industry, that it's making games that the game players actually want to play, and that's why it stays winning. And it's amazing to see that Stellar Blade is doing big things still, even after months after its release. And I think it will continue to be this way because it's pleasing the people that you're supposed to please, not the gaming journalists, not the political progressives, not anyone that is just crying about the game and how it looks because they don't want this type of game design to spread. No, you're pleasing the game players, and that is what is going to make you profit. And I'm glad that's making profit from all angles, from royalties to IPO profits. It is bringing in the bank, and I hope other games developers outside of the Western games development sphere continue to follow this pace. Of course, Western games, they're always going to do what they're going to do. They're going to have ugly characters, terrible gameplay, terrible storytelling, and they're going to ignore the 3 things game players actually want. They're not going to make good gameplay, they're not going to make beautiful characters, and they're going to have terrible stories. And I think that's why the video gaming industry in the Western world is collapsing, while video games in the Eastern world are rising. You tell me what you think about this situation. What do you think about Stellar Blade? Do you think it will stay winning into the later parts of 2024? I think that is probably going to be the case, but you leave your comments. Tell me what you think about the situation. Like, comment, share, subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.